All right, good day and welcome again to the English language with Mr. Techno. On today's episode of our oral English class, we're going to be looking at the second vowel sound in the English phonetic system. Okay, and this is no other than the short E. Yes. So you remember that in the previous video, we dealt with the long E sound. And I made sure to tell you that whenever a sound carries the punctuation mark we know as colon, all right, it is said to be long. But when it does not possess the colon and it is a single sound, that is, it is a monosyllabic sound, a sound of one unit, all right, it is inevitably a short vowel. All right, so this vowel sound occurs mainly in the letters you can see on the board: the letter I, the letter E, the letter Y, the letters IE, the letters ED, and the letters ET. Okay, so let's get right to it. Now, for number one, which is the letters I, or the letter I rather, where we have common examples in words like pit, as in PITH. This will be transcribed as this, P. You see that now? That's for letter I. Yes. So whenever the letter I is the only vowel letter in a particular syllable of a word, you see that now? The letter I will possess the short E sound. Okay? So this word is monosyllabic, meaning it has one syllable. And then the only vowel it has is letter I. So the I is going to produce or possess the short E sound. All right. So I could have examples as well, like in the word THICK, which is thick, thick, just like this. Easy peasy. Okay. Now, those are two basic examples showing the short E sound in letter I. All right. Now, do not forget, let's mention this again. The letter I in some words can give us the long E sound, just as in the word police. You see it here. You see that? Excellent. So you have to be careful. In the previous video I did on the long E sound, I made mention of a problematic feature that we have incumbent in the English language, and that particular feature is known as exceptions. The English language is saturated or surrounded by so many exceptions. Okay, so the same letter I in a word giving me the short E sound is in another word and producing a long E sound. All right. If there's any inference or conclusion we can draw from here, it is this: that the best way to know sounds, okay, is by making mastery of a large number of words, so that you know the sounds that are present there. Okay, there's no other magic for it. Of course, there are rules to guide you, which is what I'm showing you, but then as many words as possible, try to lay your hands on them, get familiar with them, their transcriptions, their spellings, and their meanings. It will do you good. Okay, number two, we have the letter E. So the letter E in a word can equally produce the short E sound, all right? Just as in the word relieve, the E in the first syllable. You see that? So this is transcribed as relieve. Okay? Excellent. Now, another example of letter E producing the short E sound is seen in words where we have two letter E's, okay, or two E letters that are separated by a consonant alphabet, just as in the word skeleton, T-O-N. So isolate this part. You observe that we have two letter E, all right, and then there is a consonant separating both. Okay, so usually in phonetics, one of these letter E's, okay, we produce what we call the short E sound, all right, which in this case is the second letter E we have here, all right. So this word will be transcribed as skeleton. Skeleton. You see that now? Excellent. Okay. Now, the letter E can produce a variety of other sounds. It can produce the long vowel E. The letter E can also produce the air sound, the short air sound. These are equally exceptions. Excellent. Number 3, we have the letter Y. So, I would find this in most words. For example, myth. Okay, this is short E and then theta. This is myth. You see that now? I will find the short E sound in letter Y, like in the words, what do we call that? Physics. Yes. So this subject, known as physics, possesses the short E sound. So this is physics, just like that. You see that now? Excellent. Now, the letter Y can also produce a diphthong we know as I. So let's make mention of that here. The letter Y can equally produce this sound. It is called I, just like in the word psychiatric. Psychiatric. You see that? Excellent. Okay, so this is just an exception for the letter Y. All right. So anytime a word has letter Y, and in your basic pronunciation, whenever you get to the part carrying Y, there is the E sound. Yes, just like in me, physics. Okay, so you should know that the Y there, we possess the short E sound. But if the Y in the word is sounding as I, just like the organ for sight, I, yes, okay, you should know that it possesses this diphthong. As you can see here, psychiatric. Excellent. Number 4, we have the letters IE. Okay. Now, when I taught you the long E sound, I told you the letters IE produces the long vowel E. Okay. But in a word like see, the IE is actually short. Take note of this. In a word like see, possessing IE, we have a short E sound present. Most words with IE in the English language, especially at the middle of the word, usually possess the long E sound. Okay? Believe, receive, what do we call them? Believe, and so on. Reprieve, relieve, all right? They possess the long E. But in the word see, we have a short E sound. Number 5, we have the letters ED and ET. Now, you must know that whenever an English word possesses ED or ET, the letter E in that word will most likely possess the short E sound. Not in all words anyways, but in some popular English words, like in the word wicked. The ed at the end of wicked is actually the short e sound. Sorry, this. Okay, so let's write that down. E.g., in the word wicked. So this is transcribed as this. All right, and so we pronounce it as wicked. Wicked. Okay, we can also find this in a word like naked. You see that now? English words that end with ed, all right, we often produce the short e sound. Wicked, naked, sacred, slanted, and so on. Examples of words with et that have this sound, we find them in words like market. Market. All right? You see that now? Market, we find it in words like basket. We find it in words like tickets, which is pronounced as tickets. We find it in words like pockets, that is your pockets. All right? So this law is applicable for English words. Please take note of that. All right? Now we have French words that possess et at their end. French words having et at their end. Okay, let me put that here. French words with et. French words with et ending. Okay, now words like what we know as sachet. Words like what we know as beret. Words like what we know as buffet. Words as chalet. You see that? Excellent. So although they end with et, they do not produce the short e sound like you see here. All right? They possess a diphthong instead. Okay? Because they are of French origin. So the accent is different. Now, sachet will be transcribed as this. Sachet. This is beret. This is buffet. This is chalet. You see that? Excellent. Excellent. That's lovely. Okay? So this is basically all for the short e sound. It's a very easy sound. Now all you're expected to do is get your past questions book and go to questions on this particular sound and see what you can do with the knowledge you have just obtained. Okay? Before we draw the curtain here, I need you to also know that the short e sound occurs in words that end with age, ege, and what we call edge. Now, the underlined parts, that is the underlined letter in these, let's call them suffixes. The underlined letter in these suffixes produce the short e sound. In words with age, such as in the word village, okay, so it will be pronounced as village. You see that now? Such as in the word bondage, the letter A at the end is going to produce a short e sound. So that word we call bondage is actually pronounced as bondage. Okay? Now we find it also in words with ege ending. All right? So we have examples like sacrilege, which is actually pronounced as sacrilege. We find it in words also with edge in examples like knowledge, which you call knowledge, and in an example like sacrilege, in an example as privilege for ege, we also have that sound, privilege. Okay, then we have that sound in knowledge. You see that now? Excellent. Okay, so this is all for the short ESA, ensure you get your past questions and take a personal test on this sound. Record your scores and be sure to leave your scores in the comment section so we can see and monitor your progress. Until next time, I am Mr. Techno.